Yeah.
So that gets us into our list of the day. Every week we're going to put up a list on a hot topic. Even Tony D makes his own list. And you have argued that you don't believe Eli Manning is even a top 15 quarterback.
No. Him going through the list, I confirmed it. But
What do you have?
all right, well, number 10. And number 10, to me, I think 1 through 9 is pretty, and I haven't seen your list. I haven't seen Tony's list. I'd be surprised if there's any differences in 1 through 9. Maybe ranking where
Let's
they
go
are.
top 5 to start.
You want to start out with top 5?
Go ahead.
My number 5 is Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is on the cusp of being even higher,
Yeah.
but just the fact that they are just,
Yeah.
this is a time where there are so many really good quarterbacks in this league,
Yep.
which makes it very easy to say that Eli Manning is not top 15. But I'd say Aaron Rodgers. Who do you have at number 5?
Well, I actually have a tie. I really have a top 6. I have it really between Rivers and Rodgers.
God forbid you take the time and actually.
Well, I have it
pick
between
top
Rivers and
5.
Rodgers, and I'll tell you why. Because I believe that as great as Rodgers is, I believe that Rivers, there may be a West Coast bias there, where he probably, if he played on the East Coast, he would be held in a much higher regard, and he's already held in a high regard. But he plays on the West Coast. Nobody likes North Turner. The Chargers are the West Coast version of the Giants, where they always fade.
Well, no, they always come. They play very well.
I mean, they always start out terribly,
They do the exact opposite. Yeah.
and then they fade in the playoffs.
Yeah, he hadn't lost a December game in his career until this year.
And
I
then
had Rivers number 6 too. So we're
there
in
you
the
go.
same boat.
And then number 4, I have Drew Brees.
I got Mike Vick. I just think Drew Brees, he's had a down year, but he had a down stretch. So he's thrown 20 picks or 19 picks, whatever he's thrown. But that came really in like a 4-game stretch where he threw like 12 or 13 picks. He still is, he gets rid of the ball quick. He makes the reads quick. He's ridiculously accurate. He's not, I wouldn't say he's mobile, but he's able to elude, defenders. I like Breeze. I like Vic.
So you have Vic 4,
Vic,
Brees
Brees
3,
3,
then Manning 2, and Brady 1.
Brady 1, yeah.
Now, the only difference I have, and any of these quarterbacks would be great, but I have Brady 1, I have Vic 2, and then Manning, Breeze. And the reason I say that is because, like you said, I take nothing away from Breeze because he's thrown a lot of picks,
Right.
or at least in that span that you spoke of. But Vic, when he's at his best,
He's amazing.
there is no one more dangerous. And if not Brady's just so incredibly accurate. He's the NFL record for most passes without interception. That's the only reason he gets ahead of, and he's won Super Bowls.
You know how much it hurts me to say Tom Brady's the best, but he's
Yeah.
so. Here's my thing about Vic, and I could be wrong about this. Vic, before he went away, was this mobile guy, and that was his weapon. And now he's learned to also be a pocket passer, but he's still got that novelty of he could run and this and that.
Yeah.
So what I only and now that he's back and it's like a new thing, it's people. I just want to give him a full season or even more for defenses to scheme and figure out how to stop him. I wonder if he's going to be like the Wildcat was a few years ago when the Wildcat came out and nobody could stop Ronnie Brown and that. And then people now it's not as prevalent, it's not as good. So I'm just wondering, give him a full. I want to see when they get to the playoffs and see if the defenses who've had a full season to scheme them can stop them. And next year we do this list again. Vic could be. I could see him being 2.
Now my thing about that is that when he was on the Falcons, and they went to the NFC Championship and they beat Green Bay at the time when nobody had ever gone into Green Bay and won a playoff game, he was the same quarterback. The difference is he's now a better passer. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's not like these people don't know. Oh, how do we stop a running quarterback? Because he was a running quarterback back then. The difference is he now is a disciplined running quarterback.
You could be
and
right.
The only time that they seem to get stopped, or even in that Giant game before they had that miraculous comeback, was when people were able to shut down Deshaun Jackson, because Deshaun Jackson, as fast as he is relatively soft. He's small, and I'm sure you get physical cornerbacks. He's tough. He gets jammed up.
Right.
And when those types of things happen, it's not that Vic's playing better. It's just that his guys aren't getting open.
Yeah.
Because the reality is nobody's got an arm like Vic.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And when he has time, he is accurate. And then that just makes it more difficult, because then once in a while when there is a pass rush, he just slides out and he just runs. And he's 7-8 yards at a clip.
Yeah. No, I know. When he's on, he's like a man playing amongst boys.
Right, so we seem to be all set in the top 6, and then we'll get into Tony's list in a second. Who do you have at the bottom of that top 10? Because I believe Eli Manning, I could argue that he is in the top 15. You don't even think he's in the top 15.
No. Well, like I said, top 9, I got Roethlisberger 7.
Uh-huh.
I got Ryan 8. Flacco 9.
I have Roethlisberger, Ryan, and Josh Freeman.
Now, Josh Freeman is the guy, I had him in a 10.
Yeah.
I went back and forth, but here's my group of 10s. And I think 10 is the hardest one. I wound up settling with Tony Romo. And I know people are down on him. He doesn't win playoff games. But I think Tony Romo. I looked at this list as if I'm a GM and everybody was a free agent next year, and I'm looking to win next year, who would I draft? And I would draft Tony Romo next year, a healthy Tony Romo over Josh Freeman. But I think Josh Freeman is really good. I think so. So now we've got our top 10. I'm going to name you 5 guys who are better than Eli Manning. You got Freeman.
Yeah.
Matt Schaub. And Matt Schaub would have been a top 10, but he had a pretty bad year.
He had a bad finish, for sure.
He had a bad finish, for sure. Matt Castle.
Yeah.
And then Matt Castle had a bad year last year, but 2 years ago he had a good year too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm going to give a little shout to the Bills. Ryan Fitzpatrick. That guy has no weapons. You got something to go? You got something to do?
No.
Hold on, I'll take this.
That may be...
Ryan Fitzpatrick has no weapons. Stevie Johnson is his guy.
But you know what? If you're arguing for... and I'm not for Eli Manning, but if you're arguing for Eli Manning, you can't possibly say... No one would really take...
You don't think the Giants would be a better team with Ryan Fitzpatrick? You don't think the Giants would be a better team? They would have more wins? You don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick would lead in the playoffs?
I don't know that, but I'm saying I'm not sure that they would be, and I don't think anyone would do that. Now, maybe it's because his last name is Manning. But I think the reality is, even if I didn't even put in Romo in my list, just because I knew people would argue he's never won anything, he's sloppy, and he's hurt. So even if I take Romo off, I still have... The reason I have Josh Freeman is because I think Josh Freeman is basically a young Ben. Not that Ben Roethlisberger's old, but he's like a Ben Roethlisberger. He always finds time in the pocket. He always keeps a play alive, and he makes plays.
Yeah.
I have Castle, Schaub, as I said, Josh Freeman, and I even have, and you want to talk about Romo and Kyle Orton. Kyle Orton had a better year he has a better rating than Eli Manning. Eli Manning, I have 14 guys listed. Eli Manning has by far the worst rating, 85.4. And as I said, he's got 30 touchdowns, but he's got 24 picks. Anyone near him, Castle, Schaub, Orton, all those guys have at most 12 picks. At most.
Yeah.
Now, Tony, where do you have Eli in the top 10?
I don't. I have him...
Thank God, because that computer would have been to the freaking window.
No, I have him 13. But now you guys are rattling off names, I could probably drop him lower than that. To be honest with you.
Do you honestly believe now? Take your Buffalo Bill hat off. Do you believe believe Ryan Fitzpatrick's better than Eli Manning?
No, I don't.
You would rather have Eli Manning quarterbacking for your team in 2011 than
That's interesting.
That's an
That's
interesting question.
Yeah.
Would you rather have it?
Would I rather have Eli Manning?
I wouldn't have rather have, and I don't like Mark Sanchez. I wouldn't rather have Eli Manning than Mark Sanchez.
I think I would.
Why is that?
In Buffalo? You're saying?
Yeah. You put both those guys on either both of them on the Bills or both of them on the Giants.
Bad offensive line with no weapons. You think he's going to just go out there and sling the ball around the field in Buffalo?
I think so. I think he has more experience. I think he is. I think Fitzpatrick is. He just is shaky to me.
See, I think the view
He's
that
very
people have.
shaky to me.
I don't watch him. I just know that
I think the view that people have about Eli Manning, and possibly it's because of his brother, is that people think he's got this. He's going to be cool under pressure. So when he's on a terrible team like the Bills, that he may be able to still do his job. Now, I actually, as I told you, I think the opposite. I don't know how good Ryan Fitzpatrick is. I know that he manages to keep plays alive, which is great for the Bills. But I wonder, on a team where he doesn't need to just be scrambling all the time, is he able to make the pass that he needs to make? Now, Eli Manning, at his best, is better than Ryan Fitzpatrick at his best. Now, but I think at their worst, Ryan Fitzpatrick is more likely in a bad game to keep your team in it than Eli Manning is. And that's the problem with Eli Manning.
Right.
And to some extent, and we're going off on a tangent here, to some extent people think that's the problem with Peyton Manning, is that when things don't go perfectly, he tends to give you that Manning face, and everything's not great for him because he is operating at such a high level that he's almost shocked when it's not.
Yeah, he's like Ted Williams. I don't know how you can't hit that ball.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but one thing no one ever talks about this for some reason. You go back to that draft, you had Eli Manning, Roethlisberger, and Rivers, and Ernie, of course, he traded up. I don't even know what he traded. He traded a few picks and a few random players to get Eli Manning, and his view is that this is a franchise quarterback. And I don't think there's any doubt that Eli Manning, by far, is number 3 on that list.
Oh, yeah.
By far.
By far.
Are we in agreement? Tony, you agree with that?
Absolutely.
I don't think it's even close. And I think that when you think of that, and once again, you can't just look at these guys in a, without looking at the whole thing. The reality is he was drafted number one.
Mm-hmm.
And if his name weren't Manning, and if he didn't play in New York, he would be a guy that you looked at like Alex Smith. He's not as bad as Alex Smith, but people look at Alex Smith and say, he's an okay quarterback, but he's not exactly what I thought he was going to be when we drafted him.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with Eli Manning. Eli Manning's good, and he won a Super Bowl, and he won the MVP. But would he have won that? Did he really deserve that MVP? David Henry made a ridiculous catch. That pass rush was all over Brady.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, you just couldn't pick one pass rusher
Yeah.
who was going to get the MVP,
Yeah.
so you kind of had to give it to him. But no, listen, you don't got to twist my arm. I think he's at best 15. I would put Sam Bradford over him.
I have Eli at around 12 or 13, and I could see where you go over 15 because I don't have guys like Bradford because I feel like they need to prove it. I don't even have a Romo on my list. I think Flacco is another guy that I don't have him as highly rated. I don't think he's as good as people think he is.
He's got a rifle, though.
He has a good arm, and granted, he doesn't have great receivers, and that's
I think he's got good receivers this year. He's got Bolden and...
but they don't. You look at it. He tends to have big games when he throws the ball to Mason all the time. Bolden is really
Mason's his boy, yeah.
And so I like Flacco. I just don't know if he's any better than Eli Manning. But I think he's definitely not a top 10 quarterback. And for a team that's supposed to be as good as they think they are, I don't think he's any better than any other quarterback in the league. Any other quarterback of a good team in the league. And I think that's a big problem for the Giants.
Just to throw this out there, you guys were talking about the trade. They were traded head up, Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning, and the Giants gave them 2 draft picks, which were used to take Merriman and Nate Keating.
That's unbelievable. That is 2 Pro Bowl players.
Yeah.
And Merriman didn't get hurt. Merriman was an elite player.
Yeah.
Merriman was an elite
He was like
player.
Derek Thomas.
That's unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. For Eli Manning, a guy who, I mean...
You can tell me the Giants wouldn't be better off right now with Rivers? Not even right now, because Merriman's gone.
Right.
But
for those
years, what year was that, 2004, Tony?
Yep, 2004.
You're going to tell me from 2004 until now, the Giants wouldn't be more successful with Rivers, Merriman, and Keating. You put every other player they had on their team. Don't change any other thing.
Yeah.
You can give me all the Tiki Barber scenarios and all that stuff. You're going to tell me that they wouldn't be better off? They would 100% be better off.
Yeah.
You guys, by the way, left out one other quarterback in that 2004 draft. It's J.P. Lossman.
Oh,
so you guys,
get that list back out. He's the number one UFL.
He's a quarterback under Jim Fossil, I believe. That's
next week.
Next week's list is the UFL quarterback.
UFL,
J.P. Lossman, Todd Marinovich. Where do they rank against each other?
Where are they at?